So this lesson we're going to start with dependent and independent variables. Dry mix is going to, so these words dry mix will help you remember what you need to know for dependent and independent. So write these down. The D stands for dependent. The R stands for it's the responding variable. And Y means it's going to be on the Y-axis. What we really care about are the dependent is on the Y-axis. Okay, dependent is on the Y-axis. You need to know that. Write it down. The M stands for it's the manipulated variable. The I stands for it's the independent variable. And the X means it's going to go on the X-axis. Again, the two parts of this we really care about are independent goes on the X-axis, and here is that dependent is on the Y-axis. Those are going to be important, okay? This is also important. You need to write this down. Dependent variable is the variable that the equation equals. The independent variable is the variable that's in the equation, okay? It's easy to remember. Independent is in the equation. So pause it, write that down, and then let's look at these examples. This first one says, what's the independent variable? Well, what's in the equation? Well, it's y equals all this, so the variable in the equation is the x. Dependent is what it equals, and it equals y. All right, let's look at this one. Independent is in the equation, so that's the r. Remember, pi is not a variable, it's a number. Dependent is what does it equal? Well, it equals the v. All right, let's look at this. The question says, what is the independent variable? So I want the letter that's in the equation. Well, h is in the equation. So what does h mean? H means hours, how many hours they worked. So for this one, we would put a. All right, dependent and independent. Again, this is where I want my dry mix. So dependent is the y, independent is the x. Here's how I remember that. Dry, dependent is y, and then mix, independent is x. So tables always go x and y. So dependent is the y. So the dependent would be meal prep time, because that's my y. Independent is the x. X is the number of guests. So there's dependent and independent. All right, this wants, again, independent. Independent means in the equation. Well, in the equation is the h, and h in this problem represents the height of the water. So height of the water. Got to be careful, okay? It was height of the water. All right. What's the independent? Independent means in it variable. Well, we got to write the equation. So this is going to be $2 plus 30 cents per mile. I'm going to put an M for miles. Okay. So independent, remember, is in the equation. So that's the M. And M, remember, we stood for miles. So the independent variable is the number of miles driven. Dependent, if you think of dry mix, dependent is the y, and tables always go x and y. So what's the dependent quantity? Dependent is the balance. Which statement is true? Well, let's just, before we even do this, let's figure out what is dependent. Dependent, remember, is what it equals, and it equals d. So what does d stand for? Distance traveled is dependent. Distance traveled is dependent. So we're not even talking about speed, so it's not C or D. So between A and B, which one says distance traveled is dependent? Well, that's B. All right, which statement is true? Well, let's figure out what's independent and what's dependent. The x is going to be the independent because it's in the equation. The y is going to be the dependent. So let's see which one says that. A says the independent variable y. Well, that's not right. We said y was dependent. The dependent variable y, that's right, is 5 less than negative 3/4 the independent variable x. That's right. So B would be the answer here. C is wrong because it says independent should be x. Well, that's right. Oh, wait. No. Oh, I'm glad I went through and said, let me double check. So look at C, because C is technically, if you just look at dependent and independent, it's right too, right? It says that the independent is x, and that's right, and that the dependent is y, that's right. So what you need to figure out is means equals. So is it going to be y equals, or is it going to be x equals? And we were right the first time, it is y equals, but I wanted to show you that. Again, you want to think of dry mix. So dependent is on the y-axis, independent is on the x-axis, and graphs go x here and y here. So if we said, what's the dependent variable, what's on the y-axis, that's going to be the cost of the pizza. What's the independent, that's on the x, that's going to be the number of toppings. See how I did that? Dependent is on the y, so that's the cost. Independent is on the x. Again, dependent is the y, independent is the x. So tables go x and y. So that means dependent is going to be the test score, and that means independent is going to be the hours studied. Okay, the next section that we're going to do is graphing. And this goes back to what we did last week. We spent all that time, or actually 2 weeks ago, solving for y. So I need to get y by itself. And there's 1 there, so I would divide by -1. Divide by -1. So y equals, this is a 1. 1 divided by -1 is -x. We want to graph that. Let me pull up the graph. So we're going to go to y equals, and we're going to graph -x. And you can see that it's going to be, so A and B both go down, but one is better looking, closer fit, and it's going to be A. So that's what we're going to do here. You got to solve for y, type it in your calculator, and then match the graph. So let's do this one. 2x minus 4y equals -9. So we're going to start by moving the 2x. The opposite of a positive is a negative, so we're going to do minus 2x. Here I'm going to bring down a -4y. And I like to write my x first, remember, so I have a -2x and a -9. To move that -4, we're going to divide everything by -4. So y equals -2 divided by -4 is 1/2 x. -9 divided by -4 is 2.25, and it's positive, so I'm going to put plus 2.25. So now I'm going to type that in. So I'm going to go to y equals, clear that out. So I'm going to type in 1/2 x plus 2.25 and graph it. So it looks like it's not quite A. B is not even close. C goes through the origin, so this one would be D. All right, what's next? Again, I want to get y by itself, so I'm going to subtract x over here. So I have -3y equals, I'm going to put my x first, a -x minus 5. Divide by -3 to move that. Everything gets divided by -3. So y equals, this is a 1. -1 divided by -3 is 1/3 x. And -5 divided by -3 is a positive 5/3. If you weren't sure, you can do it in your calculator and it'll show you. So go back to y equals, we'll graph that. 1/3 x plus 5/3. Graph it. It's definitely not D or B. Let me see what A looks like. Nope, A is going negative, so it's C. C is my answer here. So hopefully you get the hang of these. I'm not going to do any more again. We'd move the 2x and then divide by 4 and graph it. All right, let's look at these, matching the right tables. So I want to graph these ordered pairs and see if they lie on this line. So -1, -3, -1, -3. That point is good. 0, -5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That point is good. 1, -7 is down here. That point is not good. Oh, yeah, it is. It just doesn't look like it. So yeah, that lies there. And then if this kept going to -9, that works too. Let me tell you why B is not right. -1, 0 is right here. Does that line go through there? No. So that's not right. Let's do another one. -1, -4 is here. Does that line go through that point? No. Let's check B just to make sure. -1, -6. Well, it's close. These lines are not perfect. 0, -4 is here. That's good. 1, -2 is here. That's good. 2, 0 is here. That's good. So B is the right one. And then this one is just matching. I'm just going to do a couple just to see. So let's see which one matches up with A. So I want -2, +10. Well, that's definitely not right. -2, +10. That's not going to be 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 right. -2, +10. It looks like this one would go through it. -1, 7. Again, it could go through it. Can't really see. 0, 4. That works. 1, 1. That works. 2, -2. That works. 3, -5. That works. So O and A are the two that match. You see how we're doing these? We're just plotting the points. Let me do one more. Let's do B. -2, -3 is down here. That's not right. -2, -3 is here. That's not right. -2, -3, that works. Okay, what else? -1, -1, that works. 0, 1, that works. 1, 3, that works. So it looks like L and B are the two that match. So that's how you do with tables. And that's it. So go try the worksheet.